Game number 1 in the Cassette Vision library is Astro Wars. And it's a great example of how the Super Cassette Vision was a major step up for Epoch, had some top-of-the-line hardware for 1984, and yet was still somehow kind of behind the times. Astro Wars is not a port of the arcade game Astro Wars, which was an Italian copy of the arcade game Astro Fighter. Epoch's Astro Wars is also not a copy of Astro Fighter. And it's not a version of the electronic tabletop game Astro Wars, even though that Astro Wars was made by Epoch, but Epoch called it Super Galaxian. The name Astro Wars was just used in the UK, and was given to the game by the UK distributor. I'm actually finding it a little difficult to draw an easy analogy to Astro Wars. It feels like it takes all of the best ideas from about 4 different games from 1978 to 1980, and spits out something that's a decent little arcade shooter. The game offers 2 difficulty modes, Amateur and Professional. The key difference is that Professional starts you out about 3 stages further in. The plot of the game is that in space year 2552, Emperor Cruz is invading, and you have to defend your homeworld from him. Astro Wars is a single-screen shooter, and it has a 2-stage loop. On the first stage, the alien mothership drops in from the top of the screen, and then begins releasing some color-coded aliens out the sides. You have to select one of the pods at the bottom of the screen to launch a ship out of, and if you happen to get destroyed on this stage, then you can pick another pod and launch another ship. There are 8 pods, so technically you could get 8 lives. Your ship can only move left and right, and you can only fire 1 bullet at a time. The aliens on the side follow a back-and-forth path as they descend toward your pods. They zigzag, but they do not cross. If you manage to wipe out all of one side's aliens, then the other side will start traversing the full screen. So there is an advantage to completely wiping out one side before the other. Similar to Space Invaders, as you destroy the aliens, they get faster. And the last one will zip back and forth pretty quickly. There's a shield covering all of your pods when you start, and you're capable of firing through it, while it will absorb the shots from the aliens, leaving a hole behind. Then a follow-up shot could pass through that hole, destroying the pod below it. Your own shots can destroy the alien missiles as well, so technically you can still defend those pods. The shield is being generated by the 2 radar dishes on either side of the screen, and those have their own shield that can be penetrated if they're hit enough times. When an alien collides with the radar dish, it gets destroyed, and of course that brings down the shield. When they reach the bottom of the screen, the aliens will start blocking up those pods. And once all of the aliens have stopped moving, your bonus is determined by how many ships you have left that can launch. That takes you to round 2, which is a showdown with the mothership. And here you'll fly 1 ship at a time, and if it gets destroyed, then one of your backup ships will fly in. The alien mothership has a lot of health, so you'll really have to pound it to destroy it before it flies away. And while you're fighting the mothership, it's releasing more aliens that move in a zigzag pattern. The mothership and its little baby aliens have somewhat random movement patterns, which can make it really tricky to draw a bead on any of them. If you destroy the ship, you get a big bonus based on how many of your own ships are left, and whether it's destroyed or flies away, you move back to that first round, only now everything's faster. Astro Wars really takes advantage of the Super Cassette Vision's enormous sprite capabilities. You can have a huge fleet of aliens on screen moving really smoothly, and even the system's really weak ability to draw background graphics works here, because it's just drawing a colored star field. I think this looks really nice for a game that you'd play at home in 1984. There really isn't a whole lot that can compare on the Famicom at this point. Even Galaxian for the Famicom hasn't been released yet. On that launch day in July of 1984, if you put a Super Cassette Vision running this game right next to a Famicom and an SG-1000, the Super Cassette Vision would be the clear winner. But that doesn't mean it doesn't have its weaknesses. There's no music in the game, except for the tune that plays on the title screen and the attract mode. The Super Cassette Vision just didn't have the audio capabilities of the other 2 big systems. and the game really feels like it would have been an exceptional arcade game from 1980. But it's now 1984. Games were moving super fast at the time, and this honestly feels like a bit of a throwback. Not enough that you'd go, why are you even making this now? And maybe not even enough that someone in 1984 would notice the shortcoming. But with the hindsight of history and knowing what's coming out in the next few months, Astro Wars is a sign that the Super Cassette Vision software is a bit stuck in the past. It won't remain there, but since Epoch was developing all of these games internally, they're not going to be able to react to how the medium is changing. But, as I said, Astro Wars is honestly a pretty good launch title for 1984. As an original game, it's pretty good. You can see the influences of Space Invaders and Galaxian in particular, but it doesn't feel like a carbon copy of those games. It's got its own distinctive flair. I don't think I could play it for long, and not just because the controller makes my hand hurt, but for a quick 10-minute session, Astro Wars is pretty fun.